What's really tough being a millennial in our current generation is the fact that we're smack dab in the middle. We have kind of a changing of the guard, and we're coming into leadership roles day in, day out. That's something that is really, really tough as a young person. On today's episode of David Learned It Live, I'll talk about a couple leadership principles from the ever so popular book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
For the dreamers, for the awake and everything that's between them, for the awake and everything they believe in, and when believing ain't enough, I'll be up.
So, in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he goes over 11 different factors that make great leaders. I'm going to go through a lot of what he said and kind of give my own commentary based on my own experience in leadership positions. So the first factor is an unwavering courage based upon knowledge of yourself and your occupation. Confidence is everything. Being able to show to your peers what you know in a particular way, in a way that exudes knowledge, definitely helps kind of get that buy-in from people. That's definitely something of great importance. The team looks to a leader for a lot of different types of guidance. So being able to show your team that regardless of the scenario, you are very, very confident in whatever outcome comes of it, definitely goes a long way. And people feed off of that. Having that internal self-confidence helps you come up with different solutions to problems that may arise. And again, having that internal self-confidence shows outward. That is your glow. Now, tip 2 is self-control. Napoleon Hill states, the person who cannot control themselves cannot control others. And that's certainly true. I always say this, and I'm always going to sound like a broken record, but you got to control your controllables. And for me, when I think about that statement, I always realize that for me, I know what I'm capable of. I know how I can add value to a situation. I can't assume that someone else is going to be able to do the same exact thing the same exact way, especially if I didn't show them or make that an expectation. So you got to be able to control yourself. On the flip side, it also comes down to the ability to have that emotional intelligence. Being able to control a lot of demonstrative feelings at times is necessary, especially if that's lashing out or anything along those lines. We all have that idea of that bad boss where all they're doing is yelling, all they're doing is screaming. Or maybe, a parent and they're doing a lot of the same thing. And that is unsettling for people. It creates a hostile environment, and that's not really what we want to have. We've all been in those scenarios where you're dealing with the perceived hothead, and we all want to be able to avoid having that label, having that tag. Being able to be approachable is certainly important. So remember, be in control to the best of your abilities. Now, number 3, you need to have a keen sense of justice. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory. Coming into my current role of Director of Pharmacy Ops, my mentor, Jenny, gave me a gift. And that gift was a compass. And I honestly love looking at that compass because whenever I need to make a decision, the first thing I ask myself is this something that I feel is right in good moral conscience? And if it is, I can lean into that decision, even if it may be wrong at the end of the day, knowing that I at least put, my values up front. It's very, very, very self-explanatory, and it's important to always maintain integrity. For those that have read the 4 agreements, one of the 4 agreements is being impeccable with your word. So integrity is definitely important here. Now, number 4 principle of leadership from Think and Grow Rich is decisiveness of a decision. Napoleon Hill states, "Those who waver in decisions show that they are not sure of themselves, and therefore they cannot lead others successfully." This is a very, very, very interesting point. Now, in the book, he doesn't really further expand on this because it is what it is. Being wishy-washy on decisions is very, very unsettling. It kind of mirrors point 1. Point 1 being that you need to have knowledge of self, and being able to come to a decision and stand on that, knowing that, okay, if I need to pivot, I'm going to be willing to pivot, is important. Coming into the leadership role, one of the hardest things to do is to think for the masses and think about what is best for as many people as possible. That's something I still struggle with, honestly, just because I always want to be collaborative in my efforts, but sometimes having too many people involved in decision making slows things down, and you got to be as quick as you can in certain situations. That's honestly one of the hardest things I feel as a young professional, is having that confidence to come to a decision. You kind of accept all potential possibilities and know that, yes, you may have to pivot if necessary. Number 5, it's the definiteness of plans. Plan your work and work your plan. Again, another self-explanatory principle, because really when it comes down to it, you need to have the courage to come to a decision, assess your situation, build your plan, build out your process, and stick to the process until completion. Unless you realize as you go on your journey, sticking to that plan isn't the best way, and then you pivot and you make a new plan. There's really nothing wrong with switching gears whenever necessary. Being able to have a vision, taking that vision in your mind and then presenting it to as many people as possible or needed, and getting that buy-in is another, great quality of a leader. It isn't something that was necessarily detailed here, but it's something that I definitely want to bring in as we talk about planning for success. Now, the number 6 quality from the book is the habit of doing more than paid. This is a really, 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 really underrated principle. And it's a principle that, quite honestly, not a lot of people may agree with. If your task list says these are the things that you do within your job, and you just do that, you're gonna pass. Sometimes going above and beyond kind of sets you apart. Quite frankly, I'll use myself in this example. Coming into the job, I was a staff pharmacist amongst my group of staff pharmacists, and I always made it a point to try to do whatever ancillary tasks are needed. So if it's an additional NARC count because someone may be out, if it's troubleshooting a particular problem because the person that typically would isn't available. I always kind of jumped into those sort of situations. And quite frankly, someone saw that and realized, okay, this person's willing to adapt, and quite honestly helped me move into my current leadership role. So yeah, I may not have been paid to troubleshoot a technology problem. I may not have been paid, to take on that extra task of doing the NARC count. I did it because it was the right thing in my mind to do. And again, showing that ability to want to push yourself and challenge yourself. Number 7, having a pleasing personality. Now, Napoleon Hill states that followers will not respect the leader who does not grade high on all of the factors of a pleasing personality. What does a pleasing personality actually mean? How I interpret it is the idea of being approachable, the idea of not putting anyone down, the idea of carrying yourself with, integrity. All of those things to most people in general is perceived as pleasing. You got to think about it. What do you as an individual find as pleasing? Whatever those things are, do that. But having that exterior of being inviting, being willing to answer questions or help someone out, really, really, really helps the team feel like a team. Another thing too is the idea that different people may present different issues, different problems, and being able to sit down and motivate and coach people through those issues and cheer them on and helping them through a process is definitely also part of having that pleasing persona from a leadership perspective. We're all leaders in our own way, so being able to help guide other people's growth is important and definitely much appreciated by all. Number 8 principle from Think and Grow Rich on leadership is having sympathy and understanding. Napoleon Hill states that leaders must understand their followers and their problems. It doesn't mean that you need to have the solutions for all of those problems. You just need to be willing to listen. And sometimes listening, you may also need to say no to things that may not be beneficial within that time frame. Again, it's okay, it's difficult, but it's okay to say to someone, okay, I don't think this is gonna work. However, why don't we try this instead? Or no, I don't have the time to work on this situation now, but I can make the time later. Showing that you care and showing that sympathy to your colleagues goes a long way. It also helps kind of encourage the people around you to do the same. And all of a sudden, people start kind of anticipating each other's needs and pulling together for the common goal. Now, number 9 principle from Think and Grow Rich is the mastery of detail. This is a little bit tricky for me personally. Napoleon Hill states successful leadership calls for the mastery of details of a leader's position. Now, how I kind of sit with it is not necessarily knowing a job description frontwards and backwards and being able to rattle it off verbatim. No, it's knowing where to put your energy at different times. If you need to make a key decision and you only have a finite amount of time, you wouldn't want to transition and do something that isn't higher on that priority list So really it's being able to be a master of your own time and a master of knowing why you, the individual that is a leader, however that may be, got to that position. And it's because of your decision-making ability. Now, number 10 is a good one. It's the willingness to assume full responsibility. People may not fully agree with this, but he mentions that a leader must be willing to assume responsibility for any of the mistakes of his team. He uses the term follower in the book, but I'm going to replace that with team. The idea that if you can't hold yourself as an individual accountable and people see you as wishy-washy, it's going to be very hard for you to now take that same concept and hold your teammates accountable when it comes down to it. So being able to take full responsibility for what goes on under your watch is tough. If someone decides to, if I owned a cleaning business and someone decided to use a citrus product, but that particular client doesn't want a citrus product because they have allergies, and all of a sudden they come back and they have an issue, I may not have been the one to clean the room, but it was my responsibility to pass that message along to my team. So I also need to do my best to then take ownership of, hey, I made a mistake, and here's how I'm going to help kind of rectify that situation. Again, not the easiest thing to do. There have been many times where I've sat down in a situation, I'm like, why am I taking accountability for this? But in the long run, especially when your team kind of realize you're going to bat for them, they're going to go back to bat for you, and they're going to pull and do what they can for you because they know that you have their interests in mind. Now, the last principle, number 11, cooperation. This point here, Napoleon Hill introduces two different types of leadership. There's leadership by consent, and there's leadership by force. In both of those situations, it's not to say one is good or one is bad. It's just how people react to you as an individual. Throughout history, unfortunately, those that chose to lead by force, a lot of time came to some demise. They may have had some misstep. They may have, quite frankly, pissed off the wrong person and had all that negative resentment come back in full force. When leading by consent, it's not that you're saying that your team is allowing you to lead. It's the idea of, okay, they look to you to kind of steer the ship, and they are comfortable that you're going to make a decision for the betterment of the team. That's really the level of consent. If they don't feel like you have the team's best interest at heart, they may go do their own thing and look out for themselves. It's a me first world. Like, you gotta do what you can to take care of yourself. Now, moving forward, he also talks about principles of what not to do as a leader. And that will be part 2 of this particular series. Like I said in my open, at this point a month back, it's wild to think, 3rd video, a month back. I always want to talk about different things that I go through, that I know other people in our age range go through, and doing my best to open up dialogue. There's no one way to be a leader. When people think of leadership, people think of management, they always think of it from the perspective of, okay, like this person calls a shot, this person's the boss, like I don't have really a say. And Personally, I don't find that to be true. Anyone can be a leader at any given time. And it really comes down to who you are as an individual, what you feel confident in. And first and foremost, going back to point one, being confident in yourself, being confident that, you know what, I have the skills, I have the capabilities. I am someone with high moral character and good integrity. I can make decisions to the best of my ability. I do my best to take into account what others have to say and show empathy when possible. All of these things are very, very, very key in leadership. So I'm going to do a quick rundown of the 11 principles from Think and Grow Rich. To start, tip 1, have unwavering courage in yourself. 2, have self-control. 3, have a keen sense of justice. 4, show decisiveness. 5, show definiteness in plans. Also, plan your work and work your plan. 6, get in the habit of doing more than what is required of you. Number 7, have a pleasing personality. Number 8, have sympathy and understanding. Number 9, show mastery of detail. Number 10, take on the willingness to assume full responsibility, not only of yourself, but of your teammates as a whole. And then 11, show a level of cooperation. Now, thank you again for tapping into this week's video, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.